Want this to actually work? Download the free sheet in the description first. It's how you put these teachings into practice. The world has given you 1,000 explanations for why you are tired. It has told you that you work too many hours. It has told you that your diet is insufficient or your food is wrong. It has told you that the modern age is too demanding, that the pressures of earning a living are too great, that the nervous complexity of daily existence was not what the human constitution was designed to bear. It has pointed in every direction at the visible causes, the late nights, the early mornings, the crowded obligations, because the visible is what the world understands and what it is equipped to address. What it has never told you, what no physician's visit, no change of climate, no prescription written on a pad of paper has ever addressed, is the invisible cause. A man is not exhausted by what he does with his hours. He is exhausted by what his mind does. The ceaseless invisible labor of a mind working against itself rather than toward a single clear direction. The unseen friction of unresolved fear. The fuel consumption of a ship circling without a rudder in open water, burning everything it carries without reaching any shore. I want to tell you something that the sellers of remedies and the dispensers of comfort have no interest in telling you because it costs nothing and requires no product and cannot be prescribed. It is simply a law as indifferent gravitation, as reliable as the turning of the seasons. The man who sleeps 8 hours and wakes exhausted has not been resting. His subconscious mind has been working all night on the thought he carried to his bed. And the dominant thought of the man without a definite purpose, left with action, is some variety of dread. I am Napoleon Hill, and what I am about to say to you is not a collection of pleasant ideas assembled for the consolation of weary men. It is a diagnosis. And the diagnosis, if you honestly, leads to the only cure that has ever worked on this condition. Not more sleep, but a different thought to carry into it. Part 1. The work you did not know you were doing. Why the tired man wakes tired. Regardless of how long he slept, I want to describe for you a picture. A steamship in mid-ocean, a vessel of considerable power carrying sufficient fuel to make the crossing several times over. The machinery is sound. The engines are working, and yet the ship is going nowhere. It is circling. It has been circling for hours, burning everything in its hold, consuming the energy that should have carried it to shore. And because it is moving, because its engines are loud and it's genuine and sustained, the observers on its decks might be forgiven for believing that the cross is being made. It is not. The rudder is gone. And without the rudder, all the power in the produces nothing but circles. The fuel burns. The hours pass. The shore grows neither near nor more distant. And when the fuel is spent, the ship sits in the same water it was sitting in when it began, except that now it has nothing left. That steamship is the man without a definite purpose. Not the lazy man, not the cowardly man, the man of good intentions and genuine effort who has never fixed upon the single definite object toward which all his energy should be directed. He is not still. He is busy. He is often exhausted by the end of the day, genuinely, completely exhausted, and he cannot account for it because he has been moving. He has been working. He has been making effort. And yet when the day is examined was when he rose. The energy was real. The expenditure was real. The result was circles. Now I want to tell you about a man who understood not from a book, not from a teacher, but from the most direct instruction that life can provide. What happens when a definite purpose is planted in a mind that has been burning its fuel against nothing? He was in a prison cell in Arizona serving a life sentence. He was not, by the testimony of those who knew him, a man of character at the time of his imprisonment. He was described as an all-around bad man, and he was dying. The disease consuming his lungs was expected to finish him within the year, which meant that, in addition to the bars of his cell and the weight of his sentence, he was carrying the certain prospect of an early death. There was no one who came to encourage him. Public feeling against him was intense. He had not a single friend in the world who offered help. Every reasonable assessment of his situation pointed in one direction toward the grave. And then something happened in his own mind, not in his circumstances. His circumstances did not change. The bars were the same. The sentence was the same. The disease was the same. What changed? He formed a definite chief aim, not a wish, not a vague and comfortable desire that required nothing of him, a specific, consuming, non-negotiable purpose. He would defeat the disease and regain his health. Within 12 months, less than a year from the day he made that decision, the disease was in retreat. He had won. He then extended that definite purpose in a new direction. He would regain his freedom. And within a few years more, the prison walls gave way. His name was Louis Victor Atning. And the one force that reversed the direction of his life, that turned the ship, gave it a rudder, pointed it toward a shore, was the formation of a definite chief aim held with the full force of his conviction. Now, I want you to understand the precise mechanism that this story illustrates, because it is the same mechanism that explains why you are tired. Everything we talked about today only works if you use it. The free auto-suggestion sheet in the description gives you the exact steps. No guessing, no overwhelm. Download it now while it's fresh and start tonight. Watching is easy. Applying is what finally moves your life in the right direction. The choice is yours. The human brain receives a continuous influx of energy from which man dares his power to think. That energy flows into the body through every breath through the nervous system, and it distributes itself to every portion of the blood. It is life itself. But this energy, like all energy, may be constructively, or it may be burned in the service of thing. Consider the reading glass in the sun. With the aid of a small reading glass held at the angle, you may focus the rays of the sun up a single definite spot on a plank of wood until those burn through it. Remove the glass, remove the definite tests, scatter those same rays across the entire surface of the plank, and the same sun may shine upon that same wood for 1,000,000 years without producing a mark. The energy is identical. The result is entirely different, and the difference is the presence or absence of organized focus behind a single purpose. The man without a definite purpose expends the same energy as the man with one. He is not conserving it by having no direction. He is burning it against the wood across the entire surface, producing no mark and reaching no temperature sufficient to change anything. He wakes tired because the energy of the previous day produced no result commensurate with its expenditure. And having produced no result, it leaves him with nothing, not even the satisfaction of a completed crossing. 1,000 electric batteries, when properly organized and connected together, will produce enough power to run a good-sized piece of machinery for several hours. Take those same batteries apart, disconnect them, scatter them, join to any common purpose, and not one of them alone can turn that machinery over once. The power in each is genuine. The failure is organizational. The energy is present. The direction is not. This is the first explanation for the exhaustion that 8 hours of sleep cannot repair. The body rested. The capacity for energy remained. But the day produced no organized result, and the mind, having worked all day without a rudder, carries the formless residue of that purposeless labor into the night, where the subconscious continues working on it and returns it in the morning, and the cycle begins again. Before the exhausted man asks what he is doing wrong with his nights, he must answer the question he has been avoiding about his days toward what definite shore is his energy being pointed. Part 2. That sleep cannot repair the invisible drains that run all night. There is a condition so widespread and so little understood that I encountered it in every corner of my 25 years of research. In the comfortable offices of successful men, in the correspondence of men who were failing, in the cells of men who had been imprisoned, and in the drawing rooms of men who appeared by every outward measure to have nothing to fear. It is this. The majority of people recognizing its presence, they will tell you if asked that they are not afraid. The reply is inaccurate. Fear is so subtle and so deeply seated that a man may carry it from childhood to the grave without once examining it directly. It does not announce itself. It works slowly, persistently, and with such thoroughness that the man who carries it believes the exhaustion it produces is simply the ordinary cost of living in difficult times. It is not. It is the cost of a specific and identifiable condition. And the condition has a name. I have identified 6 basic fears by which the great majority of men are bound. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of the loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. One or more of these fears operates in the mind of nearly every man who walks this earth, and the man who has never examined which mind is carrying them without knowing it, paying price without understanding what he is purchasing. But beyond these six, there is a seventh affliction more deeply seated and more often fatal than the others combined, and more difficult to detect precisely because it is invisible even to the man who suffers from it. It is susceptibility to negative influences. It is the condition of the man whose mind is left open day and night, waking and sleeping to every discouraging impression that reaches it through the words of others, through the habits of his closest associations, through the accumulated suggestions of a negative environment that he has never thought to examine or resist. Its weapon is intangible. It consists merely of a state of mind. And a state of mind, while it cannot be seen, is not nothing. It is the most powerful force in the experience of man. Here is the fact that every physician knows and no physician is paid to tell you. Worry, excitement, and fear will interfere with the digestive process and in extreme cases stop it altogether. This is not an observation about mood. It is a description of a physical mechanism. The energy known as thought, when contaminated with negative units, throws the whole nervous system out of working order. Digestion is impaired. The distribution is impaired. The distribution of vital force through the body is disrupted. And the man who carries sustained fear, not a momentary fright, but the slow, persistent, subtly operating fear that works beneath the level of conscious awareness, is paying a physical price for it that has nothing to do with how many hours he spends in his bed. There was a period in the history of this country when the streets of its greatest cities were full of men whose capacity for productive effort had been paralyzed. Not by any physical incapacity, not by any shortage of food or shelter, but by a single dominant thought shared simultaneously by millions. The thought was fear of poverty. The fear alone, not any actual scarcity, but the state of mind of expectation of scarcity produced the physical reality of what was called a depression. Men who were capable, who had been capable the week before the fear took hold, suddenly found themselves unable to act, unable to decide, unable to initiate. Their bodies were the same. Their minds had changed. And the changed mind produced, through the mechanism of sustained fear, the physical symptoms of defeat, the paralysis of reason, the destruction of imagination, the extinction of self-reliance. I want you to understand what sustained fear does to the body and mind of the man who carries it night after night, not as an acute crisis, but as a chronic background condition, because this is the condition of the man who sleeps 8 hours and then wakes exhausted. Fear of poverty paralyzes the faculty of reason. It destroys the faculty of imagination. It kills self-reliance, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative, and leads to an uncertainty of purpose that makes every morning feel like an attempt to walk forward in deep mud. It encourages procrastination, the most effective single destroyer of productive effort that I have ever identified. It wipes out self-control, it destroys ambition, it beclouds the memory, and it invites failure in every form. Not because failure deserves to come, but because a mind saturated with the expectation of failure creates the conditions for failure's arrival with the same reliability that a mind saturated with purpose creates the conditions for achievement. All of this requires energy to maintain. The man who is paralyzed by fear is not resting, he is spending. Every moment of maintained anxiety is a metabolic expenditure. Every hour of sustained worry is an hour of labor. Invisible labor, producing nothing, earning nothing, consuming the same fuel that ought to be reserved for the work of a definite purpose. Now, worry is a state of mind based upon fear. It works slowly but persistently. It digs itself in step by step until it paralyzes the reasoning faculty and destroys self-confidence and initiative. It is a form of sustained fear caused by indecision. And an unsettled mind, a mind that has reached no firm decisions about the things it most fears, cannot rest because the problem it has not decided about remains active. The subconscious continues working on it through the night, and it works on it the way any laborer works on an unfinished task without stopping, without rest, without the satisfaction of completion. Let me offer you the most striking illustration of the relationship between decision and exhaustion that I ever personally witnessed. I once visited a man who was to be executed within 2 hours. He was one of 8 men confined in the same cell, and he was without question the calmest. The others were agitated. The condemned man ate a dinner sufficient for 3 men with apparent enjoyment, and spoke to me with a smile of confidence that I would not have expected in any circumstances less certain than his own. I asked him how it felt to know that he was approaching eternity in so short a time. He said, "I feel fine. I have felt fine ever since I learned for certain that I must die. I made up my mind then to accept my fate in good spirit. The decision had eliminated the indecision. The indecision was where the worry had lived. And with the worry gone, with the sustained fear of an unresolved outcome replaced by the quiet finality of a decision made, the body found its rest even within 2 hours of its end." This is the principle. Kill the habit of worry in all its forms by reaching a firm and general decision that nothing life has to offer is worth the price of sustained fear. With that decision comes poise. With poise comes peace of mind. With peace of mind comes the calmness of thought that restores what 8 hours of fitful sleep in an anxious body cannot. Part 3. The man who has nothing to rest from. Why a purposeless life is the most exhausting life of all. I want to show you something I observed across 25 years of studying men that I found more revealing than almost anything else I encountered. The most exhausted man in any room was rarely the hardest worker in that room. He was the man without direction. The man who had worked 14 hours toward a purpose he had named and claimed and decided upon. That man had a quality in his bearing that the hours of effort had not extinguished. There was something in the tone of his voice, the quickness of his step, the directness of his answers that told you he was still organized, still pointed somewhere, that the expenditure of the day had produced something sufficient to sustain the willingness to spend again. The man without a purpose, the drifter as I have long called him, presented an entirely different picture, even when his hours of visible effort had been fewer. Something in him had been exhausted that work alone could not account for, and it took me many years of study to identify precisely what it was. It was this, the ceaseless, unproductive expenditure of energy against no resistance that leads anywhere. Let me describe the drifter to you as he was described to me under conditions I shall not elaborate upon here. The first thing one notices about a drifter is his total lack of a major purpose in life. He is conspicuous by his lack of self-confidence, not the performed confidence of a man who's pretending, but the genuine inner certainty that comes from knowing what you are for and where you are going. He will never accomplish anything requiring sustained thought and effort. He is sick or ailing from some real or imaginary cause, and his physical complaints are genuine, not invented, but produced by the sustained operation of a mind working without direction upon the body it inhabits. He will lack enthusiasm and initiative. He will take the line of least resistance whenever it presents itself, not from moral weakness, but because the line of purpose, the line that leads somewhere, requires the organizing force of a definite chief aim, and he has not provided himself with one. His personality carries no magnetism. He will begin many things and complete nothing. He will work harder to avoid thinking than most men work to earn their living. And he is tired, persistently, inexplicably tired, exhausted by the effort of going nowhere, depleted by the invisible labor of a rudderless ship, fuel against open water. Now let me show you his opposite. Many years ago, a man whose name I will not give you at once was employed poorly paid clerk in a retail establishment. A man of no special genius by the account of those who employed him, no remarkable education, and no outward evidence of the fortune that was eventually to bear his name building in New York City. He had an idea, not a complicated idea. Not an idea that required years of academic preparation or access to powerful men. An idea so simple that when he described to those around him, they pointed to it as evidence that he had not understood how business was done. He had observed what everyone around him had also observed, that ordinary working men and women carried very little money in their pockets, single purchase. and he conceived the system of building stores organized entirely around the coin that everyone possessed. And no one had yet organized a commercial enterprise to capture the nickel and the dime. He concentrated every thought, every dollar, every working hour behind that single idea. He did not divide his attention between this possibility and several others. He did not pursue it on Monday and reconsider it on Wednesday. He did not scatter the rays of his effort across the whole surface of commerce. He focused them through the glass of a definite chief aim upon that single spot, and the temperature rose until it burned through. Men told him he would fail. He did not believe them. He exercised what I have always called the divine right of the man who has fixed upon a definite purpose, the right to keep other men's doubts out of his mind. His name was F. Woolworth. And the fortune that idea produced, a fortune exceeding $100 million, given material expression in a building that scraped the sky of New York, was not the product of superior energy or extraordinary intelligence. It was the product of ordinary energy organized behind one extraordinary concentration of purpose. The contrast with the drifter is not one of ours worked. It is one of organization. Woolworth was not more energetic than the drifter who surrounded him. It is one of organization. Woolworth was not more energetic than the drifter who surrounded him. He was more directed, and directed energy does not dissipate. It accumulates, it builds, and the building produces a result, and the result sustains the energy that produced it. 1,000 electric batteries, when properly connected and organized behind a common purpose, will run a good-sized piece of machinery for hours. Take those same batteries apart, disconnect each one from every other. Leave each burning its charge in isolation, and not one of them alone can turn the machinery over once. The power in each cell is unchanged. The failure is in the organization. Until a man selects a definite purpose in life, he dissipates. Until a man selects a definite purpose in life, he dissipates his energies and spreads his thoughts over so many subjects and in so many different directions that they lead not to power, but to indecision and weakness. He is the 1,000 disconnected batteries, each with genuine charge, each burning against nothing, exhausted at the end of each day by effort that produced no accumulated result. Now, I want you to observe what the definite purpose does for the man who carries it, not as a pleasant abstract benefit, but as a precise physical fact. The man who possesses a definite chief aim finds as he pursues it with the full force of organized effort that his energy does not diminish with use in the way the drifter's energy diminishes. The purposeful man is drawn forward by his days rather than dragged through them. A busy person seldom has time to think about dying. He finds life too thrilling to worry. The man with a consuming purpose does not accumulate the invisible fatigue of purposeless expenditure because his expenditure is not purposeless. It lands somewhere. It produces something, and what it produces sustains the willingness to produce again. The drifter's exhaustion is not the exhaustion of effort well spent. It is the exhaustion of effort that arrived nowhere. And the particular heaviness of that kind of exhaustion is that it cannot be repaired by rest alone, because it is not the body that is most depleted. It is the sense, however dimly felt, however persistently denied, that the days are being consumed without a shore in sight. Part 4. What the mind does at night when you give it nothing to do, the law that makes exhaustion a habit and the principle that reverses it. I want to describe for you a law that operates without ceasing, without sympathy, without regard for whether the man for you. A law that operates without ceasing, without sympathy, without regard for whether the man a man is working upon understands it or has ever heard of it. It is the law that explains why a man can sleep 8 hours and wake into the same exhaustion he went to sleep with, why the weariness accumulates across weeks and months without relief, why the tired man who rests as much as circumstances permit finds that the rest does not restore what the fatigue has consumed. The law is this. Any impulse of thought that the mind repeats over and over through habit forms an organized rhythm. When that rhythm reaches sufficient depth through repetition, nature takes it over and makes it permanent. The thought is no longer something the man chooses each day. It simply is as automatic as breathing, as natural as the needle returning to the groove in the wax record. This is what I have elsewhere called hypnotic rhythm. And it is the mechanism by which exhaustion, once it has called hypnotic rhythm. And it is the mechanism by which exhaustion, once it has settled into a man's daily experience, becomes self-sustaining. Why it requires no fresh cause each morning. Why it is simply there, inherited from the previous day's repetition of the same state. The man who permits the thought of purposelessness or of unresolved fear or of general indefinites about the conditions of his life, who permits these thoughts to dominate the closing hours of each day, is providing his subconscious mind with its nightly commission. And the subconscious, which does not question the wisdom of its instructions and does not distinguish between a thought of faith and a thought of fear, will work on that commission all night with the same diligence it would bring to a commission of genuine purpose. In the morning, it delivers the result of the night's work. The man who commissioned fear will receive fear. The man who commissioned unresolved doubt will receive it. Slightly more organized, slightly more entrenched than it was when he first gave it over. The man who commissioned the formless, undirected energy of a mind without a purpose will wake into that formlessness and will carry it through another day and return it slightly heavier at the next night's closing. This is the cycle of exhaustion that no amount of additional sleep interrupts, because the sleep is not the source of the problem, and more of it does not address the mechanism that produces it. Now I want to show you what happens when the commission is changed. A man sat at a telegraph key in a small country, stationed $30 a month, tapping out messages for other men's business. He was 40 years old. He had no capital. He had no reputation. He had no reputation that extended beyond the borders of a small post. He had no powerful allies and no outward evidence that the circumstances of his life would change by any means available to him. And yet he had reached the point, through what internal history I cannot fully reconstruct, at which he formed in the quiet of his own mind a purpose so specific and so consuming that it reorganized everything else. He determined to build a great railroad system across the unsettled West, not to wish for such a thing, not to entertain it as a pleasant possibility, to build it specifically, definitely with the full force of his will, organized behind the single aim, without capital, without reputation, without a single outward resource that justified the purpose. And something happened, not in his circumstances, which remained unchanged in the beginning. Something happened in the nature of the energy he brought to his days. The commission he gave his subconscious, he brought to his days. The commission he gave his subconscious mind at night changed, and the subconscious, operating on the new commission through the hours of sleep, began returning in the morning something different from what it had returned before. Plans, connections, the recognition of resources previously invisible to the undirected mind, the slow, reliable, accumulating organization energy behind a single point. His name was James J. Hill. And the Great Northern Railway, which he built without government subsidy, beginning at the age that most men accept is too late for beginnings, stands as the result of what a definite purpose, consistently commissioned to the subconscious mind through the sustained repetition of deliberate thought, can produce from the circumstances of an ordinary man. Now let me tell you what the commission must be for the night you are about to pass through. The subconscious mind may be given any order given with confidence and with repetition, and it will carry that order out as reliably as it will wake you at whatever hour you demand it to wake you. I have tested this principle hundreds of times. Command the subconscious mind to wake you at 4 in the morning with full confidence. Subconscious mind to wake you at 4 in the morning with full confidence and full repetition, and it will tap you on the shoulder at that precise hour as surely as if a person had come to your bed to do so. The principle is the same regardless of what order is given. What order have you been giving it? The man who goes to bed carrying the accumulated impressions of a day spent without direction, carrying the unresolved fears, the undecided questions, The shapeless fatigue of a mind that has burned its fuel against open water all day has given the subconscious mind a commission to work on those things all night. And the subconscious will work on them with perfect faithfulness, returning them in the morning in their refined form, slightly more organized, slightly more deeply grooved, slightly more automatic, and no more resolved than when they were first given over. But the man who before closing his eyes speaks his definite purpose aloud with conviction, who reads his written statement of the specific thing he intends to have and the plan by which he intends to attain it, mixed with the feeling of a man who does not entertain alternatives. That man has given the subconscious a different commission. And the subconscious, faithful as always, will work on that commission through the night and return its labor in the morning as surely as it returns anything else. There is an instruction I have given to men in every condition and every circumstance, and I give it to you now with the same precision and the same conviction with which it was first organized from 25 years of evidence. Repeat these words aloud 12 times in the minutes just before you surrender to sleep. Tomorrow, I will do everything that should be done when it should be done and as it should be done. I will perform the most difficult task first because this will destroy the habit of procrastination and develop the habit of action in its place. Not once, 12 times aloud, not read silently from a page, but spoken into the room in your own voice with the full weight of your intention behind each repetition. The subconscious mind does not respond to words read without feeling. Plain, unemotional recitation will produce nothing, no more than a prayer spoken by a man who believes it. The subconscious acts upon instructions that are mixed with emotion, with conviction, with the genuine feeling of a man who means what he says. The 12 repetitions are the mechanism by which that feeling is built into the instruction by which the spoken word is given, the emotional charge that makes it a command, rather than a recitation. When that command reaches the subconscious mind, when it arrives, mixed with conviction and carried by the voice of a man who has decided the subconscious receives it with the same faithfulness with which it receives any instruction, it works on it through the night. It delivers the results of that work in the morning, and the morning will be different. Part 5. The rest that comes only after the mind has been claimed the closing commission for the night you are about to sleep through. I'm going to speak to you now as directly as I have ever spoken to any man. You are tired. You have been tired for longer than you can fully account for. And you have explained your tiredness to yourself in the language that the world provided, the hours, the obligations, the demands of a difficult age. Because those explanations are visible and available and require no uncomfortable examination of what has been happening in the part of your life that cannot be seen from the outside. What has been happening is this. Your subconscious mind has been working every night on the commission you gave it. And the commission you gave it, the dominant thought that occupied your mind in the closing hours of each day, unexamined and undirected, was the accumulated residue of a mind that has not yet found its definite purpose and claimed it with the force of an irrevocable decision. That is not a moral judgment. Mechanical description. The subconscious does not evaluate. It works on what it is given. And what it has been given night after night is the material of drift. The unresolved questions, the unnamed fears, the circular energy of a man whose rudder is gone. I want to tell you now about the man who discovered in the most dramatic possible way the difference between carrying a purpose as a wish and committing to it as a decision. A young minister in the Stockyard district of Chicago had been nursing an idea for nearly 2 years. It was not a small idea. It was the idea of a college, a specific organized institution built on a specific philosophy of education in which young men and women would learn not abstractly, but the practical application of knowledge to living. He had a vision of the building, of the classrooms, of the students who would benefit from it. He had a purpose. He had a desire. What he did not have was a decision. For 2 years, he carried the idea to bed every night. He took it with him everywhere. He turned it over and over in his mind, and for 2 years happened because nothing ever happens to a desire that has not been crystallized into a definite decision with a definite plan and a definite date. Then, on a Saturday afternoon, sitting alone in his room, something changed. Not in the idea was the same. Something changed in his relationship to it. He made a decision. He said, not in a whisper of hope, but in the full voice of a man who has committed that he would have the $1 million his purpose required within 1 week. He described what happened in that moment in these words. Something inside me seemed to say, why didn't you reach that decision a long time ago? The moon was waiting for you all the time. He went to bed that night and slept by his own account with a feeling of confidence such as he had not known before, not because the circumstances had changed. The circumstances had not changed. The idea was the same. The need was the same. But the indecision was gone. The formless carrying of the wish had been replaced by the precise committed weight of a decision. And the subconscious mind, receiving its first clear commission in 2 years, went to work. Within 36 hours, the $1 million had been given to him by a man in his congregation who heard his sermon and recognized in it the voice of a man who decided his name was Frank Gonzalez. And the 2 years of carrying the wish had produced nothing. The one decision reached on one Saturday afternoon and carried to sleep as a commission rather than a hope produced a college within 36 hours. The exhaustion of those 2 years, the fatigue of carrying an undecided desire through every waking hour, dissolved the moment the decision was made. Not because the work was finished, because the mind had been given its direction, and direction is rest and drift is labor. Now I want to give you the commission for tonight. Not a pleasant suggestion, not a motivational instruction that you may consider and set aside. A precise commission as exact as any order given to any laborer for any defined piece of work. Tonight, before you close your eyes, you will perform 3 acts. The first you will write, if you have not already written, a clear and specific statement of your definite chief aim. Not what you hope for or what you would like, but what you intend to have. You will name the specific thing, you will name the date by which you intend to have it, you will name what you intend to give in return for it, and you will name the plan, however preliminary, through which you intend to pursue it. This statement will be written in the first person in the present tense of intention. Not I wish to have, but I will have. You will sign it. You will place one copy where you will see it during the day and another in the room where you sleep. The second, you will read that statement aloud, not silently, aloud in your own voice in the room with the full weight of your conviction behind the words. You will read it as a man who has decided, not as a man who is hoping, because the subconscious mind does not act upon hope, it acts upon conviction, and conviction is carried by the voice before it is felt by the mind. As you read, you will see yourself already in possession of the object of the statement. Not imagine it in the vague way of pleasant daydreams, but see it with the clarity of a man looking at something that exists. The subconscious mind is instructed by images mixed with feeling. Give it both. The third, you will repeat 12 times in the final minutes before sleep, the words I gave you in the preceding part of this discourse. Tomorrow I will do everything that should be done, when it should be done, and as it should be done. I will perform the most difficult task first, because this will destroy the habit of procrastination and develop the habit of action in its place, 12 times aloud with meaning. Then close your eyes. The subconscious mind will receive its commission. It will work on it through every hour of the night with the faithfulness it brings to every instruction it is given. It will return its labor to you in the morning, not in the form of certainty about outcomes which no honest teacher can promise, but in the form of clarity of direction which no honest teacher will withhold. And the morning will feel different. Not different in the way that 8 more hours of sleep makes a morning different. Different in the way that a ship with its rudder restored feels different from a ship that has been circling. You will wake pointed at something, and a man who wakes pointed at something is not the same man who wakes into the formless weight of another purposeless day. I want to close with this because it is the most important thing I know how to say. The exhaustion you have been carrying is not a verdict on your character. It is not evidence that you are fundamentally weaker or less capable than the men you observe arriving at the things you desire. It is a report entirely specific, entirely mechanical on what your mind has been commissioned to work on while your body was still. You have been commissioning fear or purposelessness or the unresolved weight of desires that have not yet become decisions. And the subconscious mind, faithful as any laborer who has been given a clear assignment, has been delivering exactly what was requested. You may change the assignment tonight, not tomorrow, because the man who resolves to change it tomorrow has practiced once more the only habit that prevents him from changing it. The habit of deferral, not when the circumstances improve, because the circumstances of a drifting life do not improve until the drifting stops. And the drifting does not stop until a definite purpose takes its place. And the purpose does not take its place until the man decides. The decision is made tonight. The statement is written tonight. The words are spoken tonight. The commission is given tonight. And the sleep that follows, a commission of genuine purpose. The sleep of a man who has told his subconscious mind what to work on with the full force of conviction and the specificity of a definite plan is a different sleep from any you have had before. It is rest, not the horizontal inactivity of a body that lies still while the mind labors in, circles rest. The rest of a man who has closed the books on another day of organized effort pointed at a shore, and who will wake in the morning to find the shore somewhat closer. Write the statement, speak the words, give the commission, and sleep. Grab the free auto-suggestion sheet in the description. It's based on exactly what we're covering here. Actually apply what you have learned here. Don't just listen. So pause this, get the sheet now, and watch your life finally start moving in the right direction.